Hello and welcome to another episode of Top3Tech. I'm your host, Jerry Ruiz. Today we bring you the Gigabyte AERO OC 8G GeForce RTX 4060 Ti. It is a white card, so I know a lot of people are probably going to be interested because there's not too many white GPUs on the market. We're going to go ahead and test it against other GPUs, and we're going to do the unboxing as well. I haven't heard too many good things about the 4060 Ti's, at least price to performance. But I wanted to test it firsthand, see for myself, and let you guys know what results I get. So follow me and let's see what happens. So normally I unseal it. I guess you could say I unflapped it because this didn't really have a seal on it. Let's see if you can tell in the video, there's no seal really. So the flaps were a little popped out a bit, but I do like this black finish on the box. Let's see what else is on here. Okay, it does come with the user manual, quick guide, graphics card, how to install it, uninstall it, just a quick reference. The thin little padding for the top, that's okay, it's got thick padding all around. We have the GPU inside. Let's see, pop this out. Looks pretty cool. Well, that's about it, that's all that's in there. Let's go ahead and get a close-up on this bad boy, huh? This card measures 281mm in length, has a triple fan design, and it has a two-tone color design on the front in white and silver. We have an aluminum back plate that is in silver. It has AERO Gigabyte GeForce RTX painted in a dark gray on it, and we have a heat vent to the right and little heat slots on the bottom left. We have the Gigabyte logo painted on the top left. Under that we have the RGB AERO logo, and on the right of the Gigabyte we have the BIOS switch. On the right of that we have the 8-pin socket, and under that we have the GeForce RTX logo painted in dark gray. On the back we have the plain white plastic shrouding, and we also get a look at the aluminum fins, or the aluminum radiator like I like to call it. This GPU includes 2 DisplayPort 1.4s and 2 HDMI 2.1 slots. So I don't have any cards close to the tier of it, maybe just the Intel Arc A770. Let's go ahead and compare the physical attributes of these cards. Here's the Intel Arc, the Acer Predator Bifrost A770 OC. It's got that metal finish, all black. It's got this Aero 3D blade in the center. It's got this blower fan that's RGB. It's got a really nice finish to it. It's cheaper than this card by a bit. I mean, this card is pretty nice though. This is plastic, this is all metal, so that's the big difference. Those fans are way tinier, but this one's got 2. The AERO really stands out compared to these cards, as you can see, just because it's white. The closest thing we have is the Nitro, but I do like the two-tone, the white and the gray. We have the EVGA 3070 Ti for the Win 3 Ultra. EVGA on the logo, EVGA logo on the fans. Sorry about that, guys. We got the logo on the fans even more. Got these little dots here. Looks pretty nice. EVGA there. This bar lights up. So if we were to vertically mount these, this is how the cards would look like. And then we got the Sapphire Pulse. It's a non-RGB card as well. It's got these little pulse lines there. These Sapphire fans. It's a pretty nice card, but you know, no RGB. We got the Sapphire Nitro Plus 6800 XT. These fans light up. Two-tone as well, black and silver. That one's white and silver, that's the difference. I like it. This is my main card for a while. Got the 7900 XTX Sapphire Nitro Plus. It's not even fair to compare these cards. It's got the light bar. These fans don't light up, but it does got the newer Sapphire fans on there. So if you vertically mount them, that's how they look like, just to show you guys the difference between the cards and what different prices get you. Again, here's the A770, the Predator. It's got the Predator logo there, Predator written here, Intel Arc A770. Heat vent, it is a 16-pin socket, Intel Arc A770 written there. Predator lights up, logo lights up when you plug it in. It's a pretty nice looking card. Did I say 16 socket? It's got 16-pin socket there. We have the AERO Gigabyte, it's silver. You already know how that looks. But that heat vent, 8-pin. The AERO does is reflective, it doesn't light up. So that's something that I wish it did have RGB there. I kind of was tricked by the box. Then this EVGA has this red line, which is kind of odd. Makes it look like an AMD card. It's got these holes, heat vent here. Built into the design, just so you can see. It lets heat exhaust out of it. We got these radiator fans. The EVGA GeForce RTX 3070 Ti bar lights up. Featherwind 3 lights up. PX1 lights up. Pretty nice looking card. This is how most people will see their GPUs anyways. I think the majority of people have them like this instead of vertically mounted. The Sapphire Pulse 6800 non-XT. BIOS switch there. Radeon. Got the Post logo. Heat vent. 16 socket. Sapphire. Nice looking card. No RGB, just like the AERO. They're close to the same price though, or similar in price. So it's kind of odd that neither of them have RGB, but I get it. Then we got the Sapphire Nitro Plus 6800 XT. Silver finish as well. You can see the difference between the two. It's got the Sapphire Fox on there, lights up. It says Sapphire Nitro Plus here. Got little black designs on it. Heat vent, 16-pin socket. It lights up there, and it's the Sapphire. And then, well, the Nitro XTX 7900. It's a gunmetal gray instead of this lighter silver. The Sapphire lights up. And other than that, it's more plain than this one. It's a 24-pin socket. It's got that big old LED bar. So, like I said, it's kind of not fair to compare these cards. But, just want to show you guys the differences that we get, even in different price ranges. So let's go ahead and put this bad boy in the PC and see how that looks like. We will be inserting the Gigabyte AERO in my Lian Li Lancool 2 PC case. It's got some fans in there, some lights. It's all black, so unfortunately it's not white. It'd probably look a lot nicer in there. And I don't got too much gray or silver going on in there, so let's see how this matches up inside. So we did get it fitted inside. It takes up about 2.5 slots. Not too bad, pretty standard. It's not too long of a card either, so there's plenty of space in my case. It does look odd in the all black case though, not gonna lie. I do have little white accents that make it look a little better in there. But let me go ahead and turn on the lights and see if that helps out a little bit. So there it is with all the RGB on. But let's turn the white light on real quick. So I would like to apologize on the fact that I said that this didn't have any RGB. That AERO does light up. So I stand corrected there. And that's how it looks like with the all white on there. So not too shabby. Looks a little better that way. But like I said, it doesn't look like it's meant for my case. So for the people that do have an all white build or have a build with white and silver parts in it, this will go perfect for you. And let's go ahead and get to the benchmarks, because the unboxing and the physical part don't look too nice with my PC case. Before we start the benchmarks, let me go ahead and introduce the Top3Tech PC specs. We have an Asus X570 Tough Gaming Plus Wi-Fi motherboard. We have a Ryzen 7 5800X CPU. We have 32 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance 3200 MHz RAM. And of course, we're going to be testing the Gigabyte GeForce RTX 4060 Ti, the AERO OC 8G. It is running on PCIe Gen 4 bus lanes, and those have 128-bit memory bus. It has 2755 MHz of boost clock, 8 gigabytes of GDDR6 non-X memory. It's on the Ada Lovelace architecture. They do recommend a minimum of 500 watt PSU. And when we compare these to the 3090, the 3080, and the 3060 Ti, and the 3060, they are on older drivers. It's because I don't have any of those cards on hand, but I do have them on the chart. So we got the results, and we're expecting next gen results, right? When you look at the 3060 Ti on my charts, it does look like it, but since I had that 3060 Ti, the drivers have been updated and the performance has jumped up pretty good. At all the bigger YouTubers and stuff, since they have all the cards there, they were able to test it on the newer drivers, and they say that the 4060 Ti actually performs the same, or slightly better, or sometimes slightly worse than 3060 Ti. So I would probably say that's probably true. Until I get a newer 3060 Ti, I'm not going to be able to test it myself. But what we can compare this card to is the 6700 XT. So when we look at the results on the 4060 Ti at 1440p, we get about 90 to 110 frames on average on most games. On the more demanding games, you get about a 60 frame per second average, and that's kind of crazy when you consider the price of this card. And it's also kind of crazy when you consider that the 6700 XT performs about 1 to 10 frames per second less, and it's about $100 less or more actually, depending on what cards you're looking at and what 4060 Ti you're looking at. But since this one's priced at $440, you can find some 6700 XTs for $300 to $320 brand new. So that jump isn't too crazy. And when you go to 1080p, you get about 120 to 140 frames per second on average. And on the more demanding games, you get 90 frames per second. And that's still not too crazy, especially what you're paying for. And the 8 gigabytes of VRAM that this comes with was very limiting on Modern Warfare 2. On most games it played fine, but sometimes the game would stutter and crash pretty bad, and I had to actually change the settings from ultra to high just so it could play pretty smooth, because there'd be some game sessions where I'd get about 2 to 10 frames per second and I could not play Modern Warfare 2. So with the memory bus being lowered and then the 8 gigabytes being lowered than 3060 and the 3060 Ti, it's kind of hard to recommend this for gaming at that price. So the main reason that these cards pretty much exist is for ray tracing, because they're on their 3rd generation and they have bigger improvements than RDNA 2, RDNA 3 as well, and it's a pretty good card for that. When you game at 1440p with ray tracing on, you get about 70 frames per second on average. On Cyberpunk, it was 18 frames per second, and that's with the full path ray tracing built into that game. So that's a pretty demanding game. A lot of games can barely run it with ray tracing. When you go to 1080p, you get 100 frames per second on average with ray tracing, and 33 frames per second on full path ray tracing on Cyberpunk, which is actually playable, because anything less than 30 frames is going to be terrible. And these cards are marketed for DLSS, and most importantly DLSS 3, which has frame regeneration. And with that turned on, you get the jump from 55 frames at 1440p, and on 1080p you get the jump to 83 frames. So those are way more than playable. It looks pretty good. The graphics aren't too bad. And the big con about DLSS 3 is the input lag. You'll notice that, but for Cyberpunk, since it's not a multiplayer game, that's not too bad. And I really don't recommend DLSS, especially if it's not DLSS 3, just because if you're turning on ray tracing, you're trying to improve the quality of the image, but DLSS reduces it. So that's pretty much counterintuitive. But with DLSS 3, you get a big jump in performance, so I could kind of see why people would do that. But hey, if you're buying this card, you're pretty much buying it for the ray tracing, because you have other options. That 6700 XT cannot play on ray tracing anywhere near this, so if you really want to spend that extra 100, this is where it would be for, or this is what it would be for. Sorry about that. So we saw the unboxing, we saw the charts, and before I give you guys the final verdict of what I think of this card, I do want to talk about some features, good and bad, about this card. I do like the power consumption on this thing. The max it draws is about 165 watts, and that's on more demanding games. Less demanding games or other tasks, it goes lower than that, obviously. It does have the AV1 encoder, which is one of my favorite things since I'm a content creator. It allows you to stream better quality streams at the same bit rate as the previous encoders, and it's featured on mostly all the newer cards, which is great. You want that. I use the Intel Arc A770 to stream in my streaming PC, and that has the AV1 encoder, so that's a plus, and I definitely recommend that they keep installing those from now on. It also includes a BIOS switch, which you guys saw in the close-up but it even says on the card, overclock or silent. It's right here next to the socket, just in case you guys missed it earlier. It's good to have a BIOS switch in case of emergency. Let's just say you're one of the people that like to overclock their cards, or they like to flash the BIOS in it and they brick it. You can always switch over to the other profile and go ahead and restore it from there. And for the people that know what I'm talking about, well, that's good to know. For the people that don't know what I'm talking about, just leave it on overclock. I probably wouldn't recommend silent. You could always fix your fan settings in the menu or anything like that. So BIOS switches are always great. The cards that don't include it, it's kind of weird, especially when they're more expensive. The other thing I liked about it is the design of this card. I mean, it didn't match my PC too much. My streaming PC has a silver and black motherboard. This would probably be a little bit better, but the silver finish on the back is nice. The white and silver in the front is pretty nice. And I mean, you don't really see all white cards too much. And when you do, they are more expensive, which is kind of this card, but it's not too expensive compared to other cards on the market, at least the 4060 Ti's. So I really do dig the white design. Too bad it doesn't go with this computer, but maybe one day I'll have a white build and I could feature it in there. So beautiful design on this card. That's an A+ right there. The noise is actually pretty good as well. It doesn't make too much noise, which is great. I don't really mind it too much when fans or coil whine are a little noisy, just because I have headphones on when I game or when I do stuff. Some people don't like the noise, and I understand. You're paying money for these things, so I mean, the noise on this isn't too bad at all. So that's an A+ as well. And then of course the temps. The temps on this card are actually pretty good and comparable to some of the temps on the newer gen with the vapor chamber in there. So it was a little bit higher, but hey, for just being 380 millimeter fans, that's not too bad. And I do recommend this card for temps, which is kind of sad because the 7600, it was the one I tested was a triple fan design, the XFX. It was a nice card, but it was a little harder than this. So I don't know what Gigabyte did or what XFX did. I don't know whose design was better or worse, if this is the norm or not. But hey, the temps are pretty good on this card. People always tell me, what are the temps? I put it on the charts, and I even put the max temp hit. But with the good comes the bad. The obvious bad about this is the 8 gigabytes of VRAM. It's very limiting for future games and current games. When I was playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, like I said, it would hit the max every once in a while, and the game would stutter. I'd have to reset it. And actually, I lowered my settings to high, and I didn't run into the problem. But on the 3060 Ti, when I played on ultra settings, I didn't really run into this problem. So I'm trying to wonder what the heck is the difference. But I don't know. So 8 gigabytes is bad, especially when games become more consuming, more textures. You need all that, and this is, I don't know. I've heard before 8 gigabytes is not the future, but yet the future is here, and we're still at 8 gigabytes. So I would recommend 12 gigabytes, at least 10 gigabytes. And not only is it 8 gigabytes, but it's GDDR6, not even GDDR6X, which NVIDIA likes to use, but that's not the case here. So definitely 8 gigabytes of VRAM is terrible. And like I said, the AV1 encoder, every card should have, which they are featuring. The DisplayPort 1.4 is pretty bad. It goes up to 2.1 now. The 7600 includes it. That's AMD's cheaper card, or their budget card now. And this does not include it. It includes the DisplayPort 1.4, which is a weird thing to not include in this card. I mean, monitors are becoming more newer with newer features, and it's good to future-proof yourself. I know 2.1 is pretty much for 1K, for 4K, 120 Hertz, which this won't hit, so I can kind of see why they didn't include it. But I mean, just include it. Why not? You're already putting the slot in anyways. Just upgrade it. It's nice to have newer features. We're future-proofing here, right? Well, I guess not. But maybe that's where they save some money. Who knows? But my final verdict is I would probably skip this card for now. I would say get the 6700 XT, especially if you're just going to be gaming. It's $100 to $120 cheaper depending on what model 4060 Ti you get, what model 6700 XT you get. But you get 1 to 10 frames per second less on average. And if you don't want to go to AMD, I could recommend two things for this as well. Wait for the price to drop. So these are pretty expensive now. They're new cards. It kind of makes sense. Last gen cards were way more expensive than this when they came out. The 3060 Ti was about $500 for the AIBs, $400 for the FE, but that was sold out throughout its whole run for a while. And I think you can't even get them now. And you would get 3060 Ti from $450 to $500. This is 440, newer card, performs the same, newer features, so that's actually not too bad. But we're not comparing this to the 3060 Ti. We're comparing this to, well, actually, if you want to compare it to the 3060 Ti, that card is cheaper, and it performs similarly. So I would say if you don't want to get an AMD card, you don't want to get the 6700 XT, either wait for this to drop, either skip the white version and get a cheaper 4060 Ti, because this is a little bit more expensive, and usually when GPUs are white, they charge more because there's not too many options on the market. Or get a 3060 Ti and enjoy that. But if you want to buy this, or if you've already bought this, I mean, I have no hate for anyone that buys any GPUs, because at the end of the day, we're all gamers, we're all PC enthusiasts, and hey, you buy what you can get or what you like. So this is my review of the Gigabyte AERO 8GB RTX 4060 Ti. I appreciate you guys sticking till the end. Hit that like button, that subscribe. If you guys want to donate, go ahead and feel free to donate. These GPUs are expensive, but either way, I just appreciate you guys watching. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace. Thank you for watching another video from Top 3 Entertainment. I hope you hit like and subscribe. Also, I'm going to have a recommended playlist, a recommended video right here, so make sure to click that as well. I appreciate you guys tuning in, whether it be to the Top 3 Tech, Top 3 Gaming, or the Why Not Me podcast. You guys are dope. I hope to see you guys in the next video. And of course, let's grow this thing together. Peace. Peace. Peace.